Chalo. So we are here to have a proper recap and revisit of the entire AFM theory. ठीक है. AFM paper में theory anyway plays a very important role because the kind of theory that they expect na, it's application based theory. So most of the times what you will have is you will have a 25 marker or a 30 marker given to you, and then on, sorry, 25 marker or a 50 marker that is given to you, and then there will be some calculations, some some detailing that is there, and then on the basis of that you will have to answer a theory question. There will be opportunities where the excuse me, you will also have a lot of direct theory questions also in the AFM paper. So, I have prepared a couple of documents for all of us. Okay, let me show you what all I have prepared. There is, of course, our regular theory. तो मैं उसको एक detailed theory document है which contains theory in Excel sheet from all the chapters. Then there is a summary theory document which is that 85 86 page का that PDF which I have shared with you, that one. And in one place what I have done is I have put together all the uh, I've put together an analysis of all the questions that have been asked ever in the AFM paper. ठीक है. So ये एक और PDF है that I will give you guys today. It contains again a question wise analysis. This is what I mean. ठीक है. This is the sheet. ये पूरा एग्जाम किट का एनालिसिस है. ठीक है. क्वेश्चन वन में क्या पूछा, क्वेश्चन टू. सो चैप्टर वाइज पूरा का पूरा थियोरी इज गिवन हियर. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, डिस्टिंग्विश बिटवीन एमबीओ एमबीआई, और एक्सप्लेन व्हाट इज पोर्टफोलियो रिस्ट्रक्चरिंग, ऑर्गेनाइजेशनल रिस्ट्रक्चरिंग. सो एट अ ग्लांस यू विल नो कि पूरा जो 75 76 क्वेश्चंस है इन द एग्जाम किट, उसका ब्रेकअप कैसा है. ठीक है. सो यू विल ऑल्सो अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट आर द कॉमन थियोरी पैटर्न्स दैट आर going to be tested in the paper. ठीक है. So let's start with the first unit in AFM, which is roles and responsibilities of finance manager. Now, roles and responsibilities of finance manager is something that you have been studying right from skill level FM. So this is no different. It gives you a deep dive into understanding key what is the finance manager expected to do, point one, and what kind of questions can be asked from this. The second PDF that I have given you, by the way, उसमें ना I have put together all the details of, जैसे एक टॉपिक मैंने उठा लिया ग्रीन फाइनेंस फॉर एग्जांपल, और आई हैव टेकन अप डार्क पूल और समथिंग. ठीक है. तो उसके रिलेटेड व्हाट ऑल क्वेश्चंस हैव बीन आस्क्ड इन द पास्ट. सो यू हैव अ टू वे एनालिसिस. वन, आई हैव पुट टुगेदर फ्रॉम द एग्जाम किट की हर क्वेश्चन में क्या क्या पूछा है. दैट इज द फर्स्ट थिंग आई हैव डन. Excuse me. The second thing that I have done is मैंने topic wise analysis किया है. I have explained the topic, I have given my pointers, and that has been followed with A, what are the possible questions that can be tested, and B, what are the past exam questions that have been tested from this topic. ठीक है. चलो, so let's begin. Give me one moment, okay? यार लाइव जाना था इसीलिए मैं ढंग का थोड़ा पहन के आया, एंड वेस्टेड अपॉर्चुनिटी. चलो. Now, the role of finance manager, of course, is basically he is responsible for end to end running of the business. And there are three critical decisions that the finance manager has to take. One is where to invest the funds, and this basically takes the form of investment decisions in the form of capital budgeting or investment appraisal that we are discussing, and working capital decision. The second point that he has to decide on is where should he raise the money for running the business. He can raise this money from short term sources, long term sources, debt, equity, venture capital, private equity, so on and so forth. There's a long list of sources from which the finance manager can raise money. ठीक है. And the third decision that he has to take is how exactly should he invest the funds that he has raised. So second decision, of course, is how to invest the money. The third decision is after you have completed your operations for 1 year, you have arrived at the profit figure for that year, how is the profit expected to be distributed. ठीक है. that decision is basically your dividend decision. Again, there are various approaches to dividend distribution that can be discussed. We'll come to that later. Finance strategy, the process of strategy selection begins with development of a mission statement. Now, what exactly is this mission statement? Mission statement means what is the sole reason for the existence of the organization. If you are a not for profit organization, then maximization of shareholder wealth is not your mission. Your mission is probably providing certain utilities and services to the general public, right? So define the mission statement, then break it down into goals and further divide that into objectives. Talking about policy framework, the mission statement will provide the basis for creating a policy framework, which basically it governs the way in which decisions are taken, and it specifies the criteria to be considered in evaluation of any potential strategy. Strategy does not only mean investment appraisal decisions, it also means working capital funding policy, working capital investment policy, dividend policy, so on and so forth. Okay. Now, if I look at the contents of that policy framework, there are four pillars that it rests on. First is ethics and social responsibility. So, consideration of how exactly are you functioning in an ethical manner. For example, when we say ethics in finance, what are the sources from which you are raising your money, and for what purposes are those funds getting deployed? Are you deploying your funds for setting up a gambling den, or indulging in activities which are speculative in nature, or you are doing your, or you're performing your business activities in an ethical manner? The second part is stakeholder protection, where, see, when I say stakeholders, I don't mean only the equity shareholders. Even employees, customers, suppliers, lenders, everyone's interests have to be taken care of. And who is responsible for taking care of their interest? It is the management. So, when we say stakeholder protection, for example, you cannot create a policy which is detrimental to the interests of the minority shareholders, for example, or you cannot create a policy which will have an adverse impact on the overall financial well being and social security of employees. Corporate governance is basically principles of good corporate behavior, right? So basically setting up an audit committee, setting up a remuneration committee, setting up a risk committee, all of these will be a part of the policy framework. And most important, sustainable development in, in the current attempts of every other paper in ACCA, I think sustainability is a mainstay. Why do I say that? See, what is sustainability? Trying to meet the needs of the present generation without compromising the ability of the future generation to meet their needs. Now, what are some of the key areas of responsibility for finance manager? Investment selection and capital resource allocation. What that means is, if you have limited resources, what is the right technique for allocation of these resources? Here topics like capital rationing and all can be discussed, right? Raising finance and minimizing the cost of capital, looking at different sources of finance, considering, looking at all the factors and then making a decision on whether you want to raise money from this particular source so that the overall cost of capital is minimized. How to distribute the profit, which is a dividend policy decision. How is that information communicated to all the stakeholders? Be it information about corporate restructuring, be it information about a merger, be it information about dividend distribution. Risk management and efficient and effective use of resources is also the job of the finance manager. When we say effectiveness, what we are saying is the focus to achieve the desired outcome. You clearing the AFM paper with a score of more than 50, that is effectiveness. Efficiency means to maximize the output with the most optimum choice of inputs. Okay. Now, the key responsibilities of finance manager that we saw here, I've put these together in a chart. Okay. Let's talk about a key concept in financial management, which is efficient market hypothesis. The idea behind efficient market hypothesis is कि shareholders, or basically investors in general are rational people. That means they take decisions regarding to investing or selling in shares based on all the information that is available in the public domain. Ideally, when you and I invest in the stock market, all of us look at different things. What some of us do is some of us only look at the past share prices. Like I look at the past performance of a mutual fund and then I decide whether I want to invest in this particular mutual fund or not. Or there are others, who look at past share prices, but they also look at, published financial information about the company, and that helps them to take the decision about whether to invest in the company or not. When we talk, see, the word hypothesis means it is an idea or a concept that you are going to test through research and experiments. It is a prediction. You don't have a conclusive solution to that right now. Hypothesis is basically an idea, and you want to verify that through research and study. Efficient market is a place where market prices of financial instruments like stock reflect all information that is available. So, efficient market hypothesis says that markets are efficient, leaving no room to make excess profits by investing since everything is already fairly and accurately priced. Excuse me. We do know that the market is not efficient, right? Because had it been efficient, then the impact of past share prices, impact of published financial information, impact about news circulating in the market, insider information, ये सारा कुछ would have been include, or all of this would have impacted the share price. Everybody would have access to this information and no person would be in a position to make super profits. Up, the thing is, if everybody knows everything, then there is no way somebody can make profits more than the others. For example, uh, when Shubh Shah studies for AFM paper, what he does is he looks at only the past papers. He looks at what questions have been asked and he goes for the paper and he writes the exam. But if somebody has to defeat Shubh, what they should do is they should not look only at past papers, they should look at other information available in the public domain. So Rahul looks at information on various websites, on the ACCA website, sab dekhta hai, and he is able to beat Shubh, who is only looking at the past papers to basically prepare for the AFM exam. Similarly, if Shubh is an investor who is only looking at past share prices to make a decision for investing, beating him is easy if the other people start looking at published financial information or other information in the public domain. अब शुभ को भी पता चला कि यार everybody is looking at all the information in the public domain. So what शुभ decides is कि ठीक है, uh, I will also read information in the public domain. So Shubh, Bolo and all investors अभी सब होशियार हो गए. They are looking at past prices. They are looking at information in the public domain like financial statements, other news items about the company. और ये सारा कुछ information decide करके they are investing in shares. They are earning normal profits. Now, if Shreya wants to defeat all of these people, what will Shreya do? Shreya will try to get some insider information which is not available to them. उसको कुछ कंपनी की अंदर की खबरें पता है. Because of that, she can make a better investment decision as compared to all of them and beat all of them to make super profits in the market. That is semi-strong form efficiency. Strong form efficiency means everybody knows past share prices also. Everybody has access to published financial information and every news, and everybody has insider details also. So nobody can beat the market. Everybody ends up making the same level of profit. This is the expectation is that the markets are strong form efficient, so nobody can make excess profits. All of us know that this is not true. ठीक है. अब talking about stakeholders, who are stakeholders? These are people who are interested in the organization, people who are affected financially by the decisions of the organization, employees, managers, directors internally, government, customers, suppliers, lenders externally. इस पे और ज़्यादा इंफॉर्मेशन चाहिए होगा तो मेरा एसबीएल का वीडियो देख लेना. एएफएम में आई एम नॉट स्पेंडिंग टाइम ऑन डिस्कसिंग स्टेक होल्डर्स, राइट. लेट्स टॉक अबाउट द थ्री ईज of decision making or three E's of FM. Economy, efficiency, effectiveness. Economy means saste se sasta, getting things done at the lowest possible cost. Efficiency means making the best use of input resources in order to produce output. And last thing is effectiveness. Effectiveness means being able to achieve the target that you have set out for. Okay. Now let's quickly talk about the treasury function. ठीक है. नाउ ट्रेजरी फंक्शन इज नॉट जस्ट कैश कलेक्शन एंड कैश पेमेंट. ओके. Treasury department performs a lot of other roles for the company, like working capital management, in the sense how much credit to give to customers, when to make payment to suppliers so as to secure maximum possible discount, how to negotiate rate of interest with the bank. It also does cash flow forecasting and liquidity planning, negotiating with banks for the cheapest possible forex rates, or negotiating with the bank for interest rates, and deciding which hedging instrument to use. Then maintaining relationships with the bank, credit management, budgeting. All of these are points that is the responsibility of the treasury function. The financial control function allocates resources की चार projects है, limited funds है, which project should be given how much funds. And it is the job of the financial control function to make effective use of resources. When we talk of allocation of resources, what we mean is ये रिसोर्स में मैक्सिमम पॉसिबल आउटपुट पर यूनिट इन्वेस्टेड कैसे निकालना है. दैट इज द जॉब ऑफ द financial control function. Now, one aspect that you might be asked in your AFM paper is पे around 4-5 times a question has been asked, what is the job of the international treasury function. ठीक है. तो corporate treasurer who is like say for example head office is in USA and they have operations all over the world. If you remember multilateral netting that we do in forex risk management, managing that is the responsibility of the international treasury department. Then making sure that forex exposure is minimized, making sure that transfer of cash across borders is done in a seamless manner at the right time. Then नेटिंग एंड मैचिंग करेंसी ऑब्लिगेशंस. वो जो एक मैचिंग वाला प्रिंसिपल हमने देखा था, लीडिंग लैगिंग, मेकिंग श्योर दैट the payments are made or receipts are generated at a time at which the exposure is, you either maximize the receipt or minimize the outflow in local currency. One question again that is very commonly asked is centralization versus decentralization of treasury activities. Now, when we talk about centralized, that means all the decisions are taken at head office. Say head office is in Delhi, baki locations mein only cash is transferred, and even if they have to make the smallest possible payments, that decision is taken by the head office. Local level पे you cannot make a decision. ठीक है. If it is decentralized, then each division functions as an independent unit. ठीक है. Now if you have centralized, then there is no need for treasury skills to be duplicated. Have a treasury function at the head office level and वहां से आप सब कुछ manage करो. You can borrow in bulk. मतलब मुंबई location needs something, Delhi location needs something, Pune location needs something. Instead of three locations borrowing from different banks, you could borrow together and negotiate a better interest rate. ठीक है. You could also minimize the forex risk to the best possible extent. You could negotiate better exchange rates, and it can be run as a profit center, because you can give targets and ensure that the risk on account of exposure to interest rate fluctuations or risk on account of exposure to forex fluctuations can be minimized. The transfer prices can be set up in a manner so that the overall tax bill is minimized. This is more common when you have cross border transactions. ठीक है. And when you think of decentralization, see, there is a possibility that the person at the local level has a better knowledge of what is happening at that location. If he keeps on waiting for the decision from the head office, so ye unnecessarily it will keep on getting delayed. So decentralization might help in quicker decision making. ठीक है. Now, when we talk about investment decision and capital resource allocation, we basically want to decide ki if I want to invest in a particular project, how should I evaluate the project? So there we'll talk about NPV, IRR, payback period methods. In times of capital rationing, how are projects to be evaluated? We discussed methods like calculating PI or the trial and error method. How to ensure, how to incorporate ethical decision making, making sure that you are also working in a manner which is not harming the environment, so to say. This is basically the investment decision. It's not limited only to calculation of NPV, but ultimately you also want to maximize wealth to the shareholders. You want to make sure that earnings per share are also in line with the expectation of shareholders. So all of these decisions are taken when you are deciding about investing in a particular project. ठीक है? Just go through this, guys. I'll be back in a moment. ठीक है। नाउ ये तो एक डिसीजन हो गया विच द फाइनेंस मैनेजर हैज टू टेक। द अदर डिसीजन ऑफ कोर्स देयर इज ऑफ द फाइनेंसिंग डिसीजन दैट यू हैव टू टेक। देयर इज द डिविडेंड डिसीजन दैट यू हैव टू टेक। ठीक है। बिफोर वी डू दैट, लेट्स डिस्कस एजेंसी थियरी। एजेंसी थियरी पे दो तीन बार क्वेश्चन आ चुका है पेपर में। देयर इज अ शॉर्ट वीडियो ऑन द चैनल ऑल्सो इफ you want to see it. Agency theory identifies that although individual members of a business team act in their own self interest much of the time, the well being of each individual and of the overall business depends on the well being of other team members. The separation of ownership and management in many businesses leads to the classic agency problem. See, who is a principal and who is an agent? Principal is the one जिसका business है, right? And agent is someone who is running the business on his behalf. If all of us are shareholders, we have contributed money to the company, so अपना पैसा है, it is our company. But 50,000 of us cannot be sitting in a boardroom and making decisions on a daily basis, right? So we'll appoint some 6 7 people who will run the company on our behalf. They are called directors, and they are our agents and we are the principal. ठीक है। we are running the business, they are running the business on our, we are not running the business but we are owners of the business, they are running the business on our behalf. now क्या हो सकता है कि say for example these directors decide कि यार let मतलब who cares about the well-being of shareholders wealth maximization वगैरह भूल जाओ, we will try to fill our pockets. So these directors, they start giving exorbitant salaries to themselves, they give contracts to their family members. They make sure that all the activities are happening for their benefit, even at the expense of shareholders and the company as a whole. So the ones who are making the decisions versus the ones who own the business are not the same set of people, and the agents might sometimes make decisions which will benefit only them, and they will be to the detriment of the shareholders, right? So this is our classic agency problem wala situation. अब ये agency problem basically happens, so there are two parties, the shareholders who are the owners of the business, and then there are directors who are running the business on behalf of the shareholders. Now, if you want to make sure that these directors don't make exorbitant benefit for themselves at the cost of harming the shareholders, what you can do is you set up committees like remuneration committee, which regulate the remuneration paid to these directors. And you can also introduce clauses like employee stock options bolo, yeah, give them certain incentives ki if the company achieves this much target, this is the additional amount that we'll pay you. It could be in the form of regular cash emoluments, or it could be employee stock options, or it could be other share incentives. All of this in a way try helps us to keep these directors on track, so that they don't run the business only for their benefit, they keep the company's benefit in mind. ठीक है। In not for profit and public sector organizations, agency problem changes because of the ambiguity in identifying the principal or owners of the organization. A public sector organization or a not for profit organization, ठीक है। Not for profit organization में think of a charitable hospital. Charitable hospital में we are, say all of us are donors. So as donors we are contributing money to the hospital, and it is doing some work for the benefit of the underprivileged. The beneficiaries are the underprivileged people. The people who have contributed money are donors, whereas somebody else is running the hospital on our behalf. So identifying कि यार कौन किसका agent है becomes slightly difficult, because who, so whose benefit should you be looking at, or whose interest should you be looking at? The donors, what do they want, or what do the ultimate beneficiaries want? ठीक है। Talking about stakeholder conflict, you could have multiple situations where employees versus shareholders conflict is there. Here shareholders want maximization of wealth, so they are like, yeah, bring in, don't give hike to the employees. Employees will be like, हम ये company चला रहे हैं, so we deserve a certain hike. What they might do is they might go on a strike if their demands are not fulfilled. Shareholders on the other hand would be like, try to give them as little salary as possible, because ultimately if you give them lesser salary, our profits will be more, our wealth will be maximized. customers and community at large might be, at odds with each other. For example, there are people who are primarily looking for, say, the customers in general. They Let's talk about a company which makes cosmetic products. It is making cosmetic products using animal fat and all of these things. So customers are like, we are getting high quality cosmetics, so we are okay, animals ko maro jo bhi karo. But the community at large might be woke janta like your generation, and they might criticize the fact that they are using animal products in order to run the business. ठीक है. So there is that element of negative publicity involved, and because of that the business might face some reputational damage. But customers are like, no, we want this particular item regardless of what is harmed in the process. So these kind of stakeholder conflicts are you know very very common, and you might have a question based on that. When it comes to decision making, the highest authority is with the board of directors, then individual executive directors making operational decisions. अगर कोई बहुत important company level decision लेना है, तो that decision has to be taken by the full board present. But you will have individual departments like marketing department है, finance department है, purchase department है. So their individual heads will take their decisions. You also have the non-executive directors and different committees which are basically keeping an eye on the functioning of the board. Then, of course, shareholders are the ultimate decision makers because they are the owners of the company. And in certain cases, you have different categories of shares. Like SBR में हमने देखा था in one question, class A equity shares, class B equity shares, so on and so forth. So shareholders in a general meeting के बाद भी, if there are different classes of shareholders, then they also have the rights to make decisions when the matter concerns them. ठीक है. Now, talking about corporate governance. The idea behind corporate governance is that corporate governance is basically principles of good corporate behavior. जैसे a company should basically have a prevention of sexual harassment committee. That is, up though it has been made mandatory by law, but having a posh committee is one of the prerequisites of good corporate behavior. Having a whistleblower policy is also an example of good corporate behavior, so that wrongdoings in the company can be exposed. So when we talk about corporate governance, it's all these things which basically help to keep the company in check. सी, अगर बोर्ड ऑफ डायरेक्टर्स को यू गिव देम अ फ्री रेन ना, तो वो अपने मन से कुछ भी करेंगे. दे माइट टेक डिसीजंस विच आर detrimental to the interests of shareholders. Like we said, they will fill their pockets with money and they will disappear at the end of the day. So if you want to prevent all of this from happening, companies often are required to appoint non-executive directors. Executive directors are employees of the company. Non-executive directors are external people who are basically acting like watchdogs. They don't participate in the day-to-day running of the company, but they keep an eye on what is happening in the company. And if they notice, that there is some wrongdoing, or if they notice that certain directors are trying to take advantage of the company situation, then they will give that rap on the knuckles and prevent such activities from happening. Now, one problem that we said was directors are running away with all the money that that the company has made by giving high salaries to themselves. या आपने wife को contract दे दिया, son-in-law को contract दे दिया, that kind of behavior. So what non-executive directors do is they keep an eye on these activities also. One thing that they do is, what we do in under corporate governance code is we set up a remuneration committee. अब ये remuneration committee consists of non-executive directors. These people decide the remuneration that has to be paid to executive directors. So executive directors cannot take very high salaries for themselves at the cost of other shareholders in the company. Sorry, at the cost of at the cost of the company's benefit overall. You will have a risk committee. Risk committee's job is to keep an eye on different kinds of risks that the business entity is facing: political risk, forex risk, interest rate risk, economic risk, so on and so forth. Then you could have an audit committee. Audit committee basically acts as the bridge between the auditor and the company. Audit committee is responsible for, setting up internal controls, ensuring that the internal controls are operating effectively, giving all the required information to the statutory auditor, making sure that the independence of statutory auditor is maintained at all times. So ये सारा कुछ किसका काम है? All of this is the responsibility of the uh, audit committee, which and setting up all of these committees is a requirement under corporate governance codes. ठीक है. Now let's understand the different methods of performance appraisal, which is linked to shareholder wealth maximization. If you want to understand certain financial performance indicators, you want to see whether the company has achieved its targets, what should you be looking at? You should be looking at earnings per share, or dividend per share, or economic value added. If you do APM, economic value added is a concept that we cover there. Or you could be looking at, stock market figures like PE ratio ho gaya, share price ho gaya, and you could say that success on these fronts or success on these parameters is an effective way of ensuring that, or it is one of the indicators to show that company is on the right path. ठीक है. Now, along with that, uh, evaluating performance could also include, setting up specific cost and revenue targets. Key achieving a particular cost control target is what will help you, or you know, the performance of the manager could be evaluated on how much revenue he is driving or how much cost control has he been able to achieve. And then you could have non-financial performance indicators like employee satisfaction, customer satisfaction, and there is one approach known as the balanced scorecard approach. Balanced scorecard approach says कि यार we'll not only look at financial indicators, but we look at satisfaction of customers, improvement of business processes, and levels of innovation, all of these together when we are evaluating the success of the company. So you will look at financial targets, you will look at customer satisfaction, improvement of business practices, and levels of innovation. ठीक है. So there are four uh,
components.
कंपोनेंट्स ऑफ बैलेंस्ड स्कोर कार्ड. एसबीआर में, सॉरी, एसबीएल में भी है बैलेंस्ड स्कोर कार्ड, एपीएम में भी है. एपीएम में थोड़ा ज्यादा है, एसबीएल में रिलेटिवली कम है. एएफएम में भी, इफ एट ऑल अ क्वेश्चन इज आस्क्ड व्हाट आर द फोर कंपोनेंट्स ऑफ बैलेंस्ड स्कोर कार्ड, वन इज फिनेंशियल, वन इज कस्टमर सेटिस्फैक्शन, वन इज
Internal.
internal processes, fourth one is innovation. So what is the company doing on, innovating new technologies? How has that they are saying कंपनी का सक्सेस आप सिर्फ ईपीएस एंड आरओसी के बेसिस पे कैलकुलेट मत करो, टेक दीज पॉइंट्स आल्सो इनटू कंसिडरेशन. ठीक है. एंड employee satisfaction, customer satisfaction, of course, are important pointers that you need to keep in mind. Okay. Now let's look at the impact of financial manager decisions. The decisions that are taken by the finance manager, they have an impact on share price, on the financial statements, on the cost of capital. Now, uh, if the management, for example, if the directors, they take a decision which basically is, they choose a project which is basically delivering positive NPV. So naturally, if the project is delivering positive NPV, it will lead to increase in shareholder wealth, company value will increase, share price will increase. If they take up a project again which has a positive NPV, it will give, you will get to know about the cash flows that are expected to occur in the future, and you will be able to have a better projection of the cash flow situation. Also, decisions that are taken by the finance manager have an impact on so decisions taken by the finance manager have an impact on the cost of capital also. See, your ability to raise funds depends upon your negotiation skills also. Correct. When we talk about negotiation skills, negotiation with the bank, negotiation with the lenders, so as to secure the best possible quantum of finance at the cheapest possible rate. ठीक है? So that also plays a very important role in decision making. Okay, now the ethics part. So, when we talk about the ACCA Code of Ethics, there are five fundamental ethical principles: integrity, which is truthfulness; objectivity means remaining bias free and not allowing conflict of interest or undue influence to override your business judgments; then, professional competence and due care. Chartered accountant members who are a part of the profession, they should keep on updating their professional knowledge so that they can provide appropriate service to the customers. Due care means doing somebody else's job with the same care and caution with which you would have done your job. Confidentiality is keeping the information that you have acquired while discharging your professional duties confidential, unless of course you are required by a court of law to come and present that information on oath. Last thing is professional behavior, which is basically an understanding of the impact that your conduct could have on the reputation of the profession and working in a manner which does not bring any disrepute to the profession. ठीक है. When we are talking about finance, we cannot in today's day and age ignore the environmental aspects. ठीक है. So a concept called triple bottom line has come into financial reporting and financial management. See, top line is sales, bottom line is profit. What they are saying is don't focus only on profit. Triple bottom line means focus on profit matlab economic value, also focus on environmental value that you are adding to the society and the social value. Are you creating employment opportunities? Are you probably doing some CSR, that is corporate social responsibility activities, to give back to the society in which you are operating? What are the costs that are involved when it comes to environmental value? Again, what impact are you causing on the environment? So all of those points will have to be kept into consideration. Now, this triple bottom line reporting, it requires a shift in culture and and focus of the organization. The reason being that, see, companies and individuals for the longest time have been thinking about only profits. ठीक है. So shifting that focus from profits to environmental and social value will naturally involve a different approach to running the business. ठीक है. So that part is the triple bottom line wala part. Now with this we have completed the first topic in your AFM का
सिलेबस में
module,
फर्स्ट
which
चैप्टर में
is roles and responsibilities of finance manager. ठीक है. Now let's move our attention to investment appraisal and international aspects of NPV.